Hi everyone and welcome to Module 4. Sorry about the lighting on this video. So quick outline, we're going to review week 3, week 4 readings, assumptions, key terms, and what's due. So some reflections on the week 3 discussion boards. I want to congratulate all of you for completing the evaluating resources tutorial. That should come in very, very handy for all of your studies. So our discussion board this week were on inferences, and all of you guys did such a great job of pointing out when you've made inferences yourself and what it can result in, right? Sometimes you will make an inference based on someone else's experiences, a restaurant choice or traveling choices, only to realize that without doing your research, you don't know for a fact from yourself and from how you feel about something. Some of you learn lessons the hard way. We had somebody who wanted to investigate what was in the basement of her aunt's house, and that got you into a little bit of trouble. And thinking that we know how to drive when we realize that we don't. It impacts your career choices, where you want to go into. Many of you shared stories about how you were told and informed or suggested to go into certain career choices, and then when you did the research yourself, it got you where you are here today. So good job. It can place doubts on your own abilities. You can make plans based on these preconceived notions and inferences, where if you met your mom, at 3 o'clock on Fridays afternoons at this parking spot, you're going to infer that all your future meetings are going to be there. And sometimes that can get you into a little bit of trouble. And it could also result in you making purchases that could be harmful. But I do want to give credit to Derek, who pointed out very nicely in his discussion board post. I love this quote, but I was sure I was not sure, right? So he's recognizing that he wasn't sure about something, and that is probably the biggest takeaway that all of you can get from this is we make inferences, right? It's almost a part of human nature. But question yourself sometimes, and you may not know everything that there is to know, and research can help guide you into the right direction. The team inference papers, they were great. I really enjoyed reading them. I want to thank you all for sharing some of your very personal stories. And it showed how sometimes inferences can work to your disadvantage, which is most of the time, and sometimes it can work to your advantage. Bottom line, research, research, and research. For week 4, you're going to read chapter 5 of Thinking for Yourself, and then there's also an attachment of a paper in the module of how to write a thesis statement. You're going to need that for this week's assignment, so take a quick look at that. So this week we're going to be talking about assumptions, right? So I'm going to give you the perfect example of an assumption and something that hopefully is memorable to some of you. I used to watch a television show many, many, many years ago called The Odd Couple, and it was about 2 roommates with 2 completely different personalities, Felix Unger and Oscar Madison. So one episode, there was a scene, they were discussing some topic, and Oscar Madison is throwing out all of these assumptions, and he's trying to make himself be right about what the topic was. And Felix Unger takes a whiteboard and he writes the word assume on the board, and then he circles ASS, you, and then me. And he said, assuming, don't assume, because it makes an ass out of you and me, right? So jumping to conclusions about something without having any factual context behind it, it's making an assumption. And you want to try to avoid that at all costs, right? So drawing conclusions too fast, what that does is it drives our behavior. We see this with stereotyping, right? And it can clearly be seen if any of you partake in watching The Voice, right? These celebrities have their chairs turn, and they hear a voice, and then if they turn their chair, you can see the shock and awe in their faces because they were assuming, well, maybe it was a low voice and it was a male, or it was a high-pitched voice and it should be a female, but then when they turn around, it's the complete opposite, right? That's stereotyping. That's making an assumption. There are working assumptions. These are theories that are assumed to be true. So, for example, if I'm a project manager, I have to make up a schedule of deliverables, and I have to make certain assumptions. So if I used a vendor last year and they turned around delivery of a product that I needed for this project and it was 2 weeks, I'm going to assume in my work schedule that they're going to deliver this new product to me in those 2 weeks. Is it a good choice? Is it a bad choice? Well, sometimes you need to do that, especially in this working environment. There are warranted assumptions, and this is taking something for granted. And this is based on some knowledge or codes or customs that we have, right? We get paid on Thursdays, so I can expect a paycheck today, right? And then there are unwarranted assumptions, claims or beliefs that have little to no supporting evidence. We received a bonus last year at work, so we'll be getting one this year. Well, without delving into the company's financials to know whether they did well or they didn't do well, you're making a huge assumption, and maybe you're even planning purchasing Christmas gifts with your bonus money that might not even come. So that's where it can get a little dicey and dangerous. There are hidden assumptions. These are beliefs and thoughts that form a basis for reasoning that not everyone sees, right? Here's a typical example that I'm sure all of us have been put in. One of the kids says, well, everybody at school is growing out their hair and you know, it's going to be long, so I'm not going to cut my hair anymore, right? Making this decision based on just because everyone else is doing it. And then the parent turns around and says, well, if everybody jumped off of a bridge, would you jump off that bridge as well? I know I've experienced that with my mom. Value assumptions. These are core beliefs that are rarely questioned, and it places one value over the other. This you see commonly on news sites. For example, CNN has very leftist views. Fox News has very right-wing views. You can be reading the same story about the same thing, but get two completely different stories at the end, and this is because they're putting their values above the actual news. There are some key terms, and these are located in the module, so I'll just go through them very quickly. An opinion is a view or a judgment formed about something that is not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. In my opinion, I think Joe's spaghetti sauce was better than Jan's sauce. Am I the expert to say that? Not necessarily, but it's my opinion, and I own that. Stereotype, many of you discussed this in your papers. It's a generalized belief. Baby girls should be dressed in pink and baby boys should be dressed in blue. Who made that up? Thesis, you're going to be working on your thesis statement this week. So a thesis is an idea that an essay aims to prove, and your statement is 1 or 2 sentences that informs the reader about your thesis. Here's an example. Reducing the amount of time teens spend on social media can have a positive impact on mental health outcomes and cyberbullying. So in that one sentence, you can see my stance on this. I want to reduce the amount of teens on social media. My topic is social media. My stance is to reduce the amount for teens, that's a specific group, and it will have a positive impact. Incongruity is something that does not meet our expectations. So a long time ago, Heinz ketchup thought that they were going to do something new and fantastic, and they bottled their ketchup in a purple bottle and not the red bottle that we typically see, right? So they assumed, well, people are going to think that this is cool and I'm going to get this purple bottle, and that obviously backfired on them because you don't see those purple bottles anywhere anymore. A claim is a statement of a point that you want to argue. So here I'm giving you 2 different views on a topic. My first claim is the use of social media should be limited to 2 hours per day for teens in the US. I'm making that claim. I can take the other view. There should be no limitations on the use of social media for teens in the US. So notice how I get specific with the group. They're teens, right? So it's a certain age group. It's in the US, there's the location, and social media, that's the topic. You want to have some evidence, right? These are facts and reasons that back up your claim. So again, using social media as an example, it has been found that social media use has a negative influence on psychological well-being. View 2, it is found that social media can diminish feelings of isolation, leading to enhanced well-being. So notice that I have a reference in there, and it's from the same author, right? Because this particular article looked at social media use and teens from both perspectives. For your paper, you're going to select one side. Either you think it's good or you think it's bad. That's it. And I have a link to the article in case any of you want to read it. So due dates for week 4, you have the open forum discussion due on Wednesday, responses due on Friday. As I wrote in an announcement this week, it's not mandatory that you post in these open forum discussions. I hope that you do. You can look at this as an opportunity to help prepare you for the assignment that's due this week. You can just write on your discussion board, hey, this is my topic statement. What do you guys think of it? And so, as you know, I look at all of the discussion board posts, so you could even get some preliminary feedback from me for your paper that's due on Sunday, February 5th, which is part 1 of the argumentative essay. So the discussion board, it's the open forum. I have a typo in there, 40 points each. That's out the door. I've been notified that these do not count for any points, but I strongly urge you to participate. Initial posts and responses, and as you can see at the bottom, I've corrected myself, points, none. So your argumentative essay, part 1, will be due on Sunday, February 5th. And this is going to be very short. You're not going to be writing a huge paper. You want to use APA 7.0 formatting, Times New Roman, 12 point, indent your first sentence of each paragraph, but you're not going to have any paragraphs. You're going to have 1 to 2 sentences. You can go to page 358 from the textbook, and that will show you some of the guidelines. If you conduct steps 2 and 3, you'll be done, right? That will be your topic and thesis statement. So I came up with an example of an argument essay, and this is the type of information that I'm looking for you in this particular paper. 1 or 2 sentences max. It's the main idea of your paper. They are arguable, they are debatable. Ask yourself a question and then take a stance, right? So I asked myself a question: should vaccinations be mandated for everyone? Right? So my topic is going to be on COVID-19, right? So should vaccinations be mandated for everyone? Well, I'm thinking specifically for COVID-19. So now I want to turn this into a thesis statement. Before mandating COVID-19 vaccinations for children under the age of 5 years old, there should be more testing performed to prove its efficacy. So as you can see by that statement, I've taken a stance. I'm saying, should vaccinations be mandated for everyone? I'm saying no, because I'm saying more testing should be done, right? And that's what you want to do. You want to take a stance on which way you'll be writing the paper from. Here's another example for you on social media. And in this example, what I've done is I've added some factual information to back up my stance. So feel free to do this as well, right? So this is talking about social media with teens. In 2012, they spent 90 minutes. The average was 90 minutes in 2022, and that number has increased to 147 minutes. Right, so I'm giving you some factual information, and I have a citation in there so you can see that I've researched it. Then I talk about cyberbullying, and now notice the last sentence. Therefore, limiting the amount of time on social media can decrease the amount of cyberbullying, and social media should be limited to 2 hours per day. Right, so this is getting there. I wouldn't say that this is great because I have social media should be limited to 2 hours a day. For everyone? Should it be for a specific group? Should it be teens? Should it be adults? Right? So you should try to get a little bit more specific in your thesis statement. But therefore, if you lead with some factual context, therefore is a great segue into your thesis statement. So finally, looking ahead, we're going to talk about opinions, evaluations, and viewpoints. If any of you have any questions or need any help, please feel free to reach out to me, and I urge you to use the open forum discussion. Everybody have a great week. Bye.